Hey guys, it's Daryl here with just a quick heads up before we get into the body of today's show. I've got to give you a warning about something that's kind of controversial. Maybe some people won't want to hear it. On today's show, we will be talking about the New York Red Bulls' performance in the US Open Cup. Just so you've been warned. Just so you've been warned.
Boo, I say. Boo.
We really are going to talk Red Bull, Sporting KC later. It will be more analytical than just Taylor booing, I promise, on today's show. Should also let you know today's episode is sponsored by SeatGeek. SeatGeek are back. SeatGeek are sponsoring today's episode. If you download the SeatGeek app and get the promo code, go to the settings tab, enter TSS. That's the promo code. You'll get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Now on with the show. And welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man who doesn't know how to correctly pronounce Weston McKennie's name. It's Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. Are you implying that you do, then?
I think I do. Yeah, I think it's Weston McKennie because it's an E, right? And I hear you and a lot of other people in the United States call him Weston McKennie, and I'm not sure why.
So you've just decided unilaterally that you know how to pronounce it, even though you've never listened to him pronounce it or heard anybody pronounce it while talking to him. Is that correct?
When you put it that way, the answer's still yes.
Your Honor, I object.
Well, we will be talking about Weston. Let's call him Weston. Schalke's number 2.
Yeah,
later
Weston
in today's
McKennie,
show. We saw him play 57 minutes for Schalke against Bayern. We'll be talking about that later. Christian Pulisic did some stuff for Borussia Dortmund, specifically a goal. We'll be talking about that later in today's show. But first, we're going to talk US Open Cup. Congratulations to Sporting KC, 4th ever US Open Cup, beat New York Red Bulls 2-1. It was not the prettiest game. It was a bit rough and tumble. It was a bit misplaced pass. But there were 2 goals for Sporting KC.
Yep, and 1 for the New York Red Bulls.
Yeah.
I kind of blame you for this one, I got to say, Daryl Grove, because we watched this this evening, Thursday evening, and you had told me going into it, like, oh, it gets really open, it gets really exciting.
Yeah.
And when you said that, did you mean that, like, people continue to fall down and, like, misplace passes, and that makes things more open?
I'd very casually watched this on Wednesday night while I was doing some other work, so I wasn't, like, fully involved in it, and I just kind of saw the chances and the goals. I didn't realize how rough this game was.
Yeah, I mean, and so, again, I don't want to take anything away from Sporting KC. It's a deserved
win.
They're
not going to let you have that cup.
No, a deserved win, 4th title, well done.
Yeah.
But it was a lot rougher than I thought it was going to be. And I don't know if that's because we're getting near the end of the MLS season, and so maybe you've got some injuries, you've got some fatigue, people looking towards the playoffs maybe, and then on top of that, maybe it is just like it's a championship game, and so everybody's kind of up for it, and that tends to be a little bit more physical. But either way, it was definitely not quite the spectacle that I think I was hoping for.
I want to say cup final nerves.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so.
I also, sort of as we teased in the trailer, the preview for the show, the pre-roll, as we teased in the pre-roll, I kind of blame New York Red Bulls for what they brought to this game. I kind of want to blame Jesse Marsch. The formation and the style that New York went with, it's essentially a 3-3-1-3, the one being Tyler Adams, who was kind of free to roam, made this game weird. I feel like New York had a lot of numbers in the middle, really packed it in there, gave Sporting KC the wings, and then didn't seem too concerned about Sporting KC having the wings, as long as they could foul them in the middle.
Now, I'm going to say, like, even though they're in New Jersey, they're like the Red Bulls are like hipster New York team, where it's like, we're just going to try this formation. Like, it's very fashionable right now to try new formations. And it's like, is it an effective formation? Oh, no. But, like, we're going to do it anyway and just see what happens.
Well, as I understand it, New York Red Bulls have been doing something like this for a good part of the season, but it definitely didn't work against Sporting KC. Like, I would enter, I mean, you said Your Honor earlier, right? If we're doing a court case, I would enter as Exhibit A the first goal, where Benny Fahab is able to spray that ball out wide to Graham Zusi, who has, and I'm being conservative here, about 15 minutes in which to serve in that cross for Latif Blessing's headed goal.
Sure. Maybe not quite that much, but
10
yes,
minutes?
Point taken. I will say it felt to me like if you've ever played in like a tournament where you play like 3 games on a Saturday and then 2 games on Sunday, and that final championship game where you're just like really tired. It felt like all of New York's U.S. Open Cup games had been played in the preceding like 3 days, because they just look tired. They all just look so tired and slow, and like you didn't see that like. to the extent that there was a moment in the first half when I was like, I'm not sure are they playing a high press? Like, are you sure they're pressing? And we went back and watched it again, and it was like they were, but it certainly wasn't a high press.
Even the first goal starts like that. I believe it's a long goal kick, ends up with the Sporting KC keeper. He rolls it out, and I think it's Moyle who is like theoretically supposed to press, and he's really slow coming along, and then Sporting KC just build out of there. So it's kind of like a press that wasn't done correctly.
Well, it's because he drops all the way back to like midfield to kind of defend it, and then is slowly like, oh right, I need to be involved in that. And it wasn't just that automatic like step and put them under. And so what you kept seeing was like the center back would get the ball, you'd have like Ekopar would get the ball, you'd wait a couple of seconds, and then somebody would come into frame, and then he would play it to Matt Beasler, and you wait a couple of seconds, and then somebody would come into frame. But even when they would, it was kind of a slow, maybe at most like a 75% speed to get there, and it gave them plenty of time. And on top of that, it gave Sporting KC players who were going at 100% time to then like occupy the space that had been abdicated. And now all of a sudden you've got tons of passing options if you're Sporting KC. And so then to bring it back to your point, like that's where that goal comes from. Is essentially if you go back and watch, it's very slow stepping to different Sporting KC players. Is it Kamar Lawrence, who I think is stepping to Graham Zusi on the cross, but really
doesn't get within 10 yards of him.
No, it reminds me of when I was playing like at like a level where I did not belong. Like it was really, really good players, and I was just sort of like, look, if they cross it in, that's the best case scenario. Like as long as they're not like beating me and just schooling me, exactly. As long as like I'm giving them like mild pressure and maybe making it a little bit uncomfortable for that ball to come in, I feel like I've done my job. But not in a cup final when you're a professional soccer player.
And I don't remember the commentary. I know Taylor Twellman was the co-commentator. I don't remember anyone pointing out that Kamar Lawrence doesn't go over and close Graham Zusi down at all.
Well, no, I think they were focused on the fact that it did seem like New York's like the channels were just wide open and capable of being exploited and frequently exploited.
Sinovic, the left back, was wide open on the other side. This was like watching like a Thomas Tuchel Borussia Dortmund team in terms of how high the fullbacks were up and how spread out they were. And New York just didn't seem at all interested in combating that at all.
No, and I think for a decent stretch of the first half, they seemed more interested in just combat. There's a lot of like little fouls, little kicks. And don't get me wrong, it was not just New York. Rubio had the little kick out on Felipe. Felipe then goes down grabbing the wrong leg, which makes me feel a little bit like maybe it wasn't that big of a deal.
There were no heroes in that exchange.
There weren't, but like it's just silly to me because if he goes down, like, and even if he's just like, whoa, dude, like this guy just kicked me. Are you kidding me? Like, let's go to the review. Like that's one thing, but to kind of sell it and roll around and act like
I'm not sure if he was reviewing the US Open Cup.
I don't know. They were going for it. They were looking at the fourth official, I think, asking for something to happen. I think you're right. There probably wasn't, but maybe, I mean, Felipe might have thought there was. But then, like, even later on in the game, I forget who it was, but he just gets like cleared out by Sasha Kleshtin after the ball has gone. And there were just lots of moments like that where it felt like New York were trying to be. I
think that was Latif Blessing. I think that's why he has to come out.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it felt like there were times when New York weren't pressing at all, and then it felt like there were times that they were, but only to foul or be physical and not necessarily to win the ball back.
And so I think the last or second to last bad thing we'll say about New York Red Bulls is they did get numbers in the middle, but I would argue they got too many numbers in the middle because, again, going back to that first goal, think of that Benny Feilhaber turn. He receives the ball, does a bit of a turn, and there are two midfielders. I know it's definitely Sean Davis. It may be Felipe, maybe the other central midfielder. Neither of them go and pressure him because they each think the other guy's got him because there's too many of them. Yeah. So Benny Feilhaber's like, all right, give me this time. I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to spray this ball out wide to that open guy out there. And whatever else Graham Zusi can and cannot do, he can definitely cross under no pressure.
I mean, yeah, he definitely can. And I think that maybe, to your point earlier, that like it was supposed to be maybe Tyler Adams filling some of those holes and kind of like covering ground and creating some overloads that then would cause problems. And I think he did a really good job. I think he was probably the best player on the field for New York on the day, which isn't saying much, but I think he was far and away the best player for them. And I think it was his work ethic, and he made some smart plays, he made some good interceptions, he played some good balls, but it just felt like he was kind of let down by the rest of his team.
Yeah, he was definitely, he looked like the only one who drank some Red Bull before the game
I mean, you're
started.
not wrong, yeah.
He was everywhere. I do think that was kind of his role, right? I mentioned before it's like a 3-3-1-3, and he's just been told, essentially, go destroy, go chase the ball down, and also sort of just be wherever you need to be to make things happen. And he nearly did. He had that one sort of low bending pass into the path of Bradley Wright Phillips that I think was the best ball Bradley Wright Phillips received that night, except for maybe the one at the end where he gets fouled by Apara.
I mean, Yeah, but then to go to Bradley Wright Phillips for a second, it's a great ball in, and he, I think, maybe thinks it's going to get intercepted, and then when it doesn't, he's really slow to react to it, so then he has to take an extra touch, and he ends up just not getting the clear-cut opportunity that it should have been, and that was kind of his evening. It was a lot of sloppy touches. Things that should have been closely controlled were spilled maybe a couple yards ahead or not controlled at all, or he was then maybe had a couple fouls, and it felt like Sporting KC did a good job of not letting him get into a rhythm at all, but it also didn't seem like he was that motivated to get into a rhythm himself.
I can see why he would have been frustrated. I think New York Red Bulls were doing a thing where their plan was kind of just like force it through to Bradley, he'll score. Dump it in the box for Bradley, he'll score. And it was kind of Bradley Wright Phillips versus Matt Beasler, Ike Opara, and maybe some other Sporting KC defenders who came across and helped. And he never had a chance, right?
I mean, we made some jokes about it during the game, but if you go back and listen to our Top Drawer Soccer conversation where we were talking about like you need the build-out line so you don't have just immediate pressure on a goal kick so you don't make mistakes. There was a foul goal kick on this one because it didn't leave the box before there was pressure, and it also felt like maybe the New York Red Bulls need to learn about how just dumping the ball up top maybe doesn't really work out that well, because especially with Bradley Wright Phillips, like he just wasn't controlling it. He wasn't able to run into the space. He wasn't able to exploit those gaps. He didn't really have much support in behind, so it felt like a lot of times it was him, then like 15 or 20 yards, and then maybe another player.
And even to this point, going back to the first goal, the Sporting KC goal, I think the ball ends up with Melia, Sporting KC keeper, because there's just a long ball to Bradley Wright Phillips, who flicks it on to Melia, right? Because there's no one else around him. The best he can do is, I can't remember if it's Beasler or Opara, the best he can do is beat them in the air, flick it onto the opposition goalkeeper. I mean, that's not much of an attack, right?
I mean, no, because at that point, it's like, I don't even think he was trying to flick it on. I think just at that point, you're just trying to contest a 50-50 ball. That's what your job is.
I agree,
Yeah, but like...
Just get something on it, see what happens. But that's kind of desperate, right?
Yeah, but when that's your goal, exactly, when it's like, at least I'll try, that's not really what you want to be looking for in terms of building up a sustained attack.
And I've swung us back around to the first goal, because there's one guy who is probably the most to blame that we haven't talked about.
Murillo?
Number 62, Murillo.
That's kind of... This is Exhibit A in my argument of like it looks
I've
like
already entered Exhibit A, so you're going to have to go
Exhibit B of them just like wait. No, but this is Exhibit A of my argument that they're waking up from a nap. Because it was just like he gets sort of into position to be able to mark, and then he just kind of stops and doesn't really track his runner at all.
There's no confusion, right? He's definitely marking Latif Blessing just before this ball comes in. Like, you even see him sort of check and get the right body position. And it's like, okay, I have got this guy. Aaron Long is like to the left of him, and Aaron Long is the one that jumps. But it's definitely Murillo who has Latif Blessing.
Yeah, and it's also Murillo who I think if he has that sort of like, no one's going to score, I'm going to win this ball, I'm going to, like, if you're up for it, you win that ball.
And literally up for it as opposed to standing flat for it.
But even it just felt so much like he was like, oh, Long will probably get it, whatever. And then it didn't happen. He was like, oh well, like, and then they all did that sort of.
He just has eternal faith in Long.
Maybe. I mean, I'm not sure he should. I'm not sure Long should have even been on the field. 100%. I mean, that was it was a very bad elbow on Gerso, I think it was. That I think that could have been a red card. I think there could have been a couple more cards in this game. I think Peter Vermees at halftime was not thrilled with the way that game was being regulated.
He said the referees lost control of the game. He needs to maybe show some I don't know if he said show some yellows, but the implication was he needs to stamp down on some stuff. I don't disagree. A lot of at least two players for Vermees ended up leaving injured.
Yes. I mean, so I think that's a sign of the way that game went. And then I think it was a very good performance, or at least a decent performance from Sporting KC against an opponent who did not show up on the evening.
I think they did some very obvious, sensible things, and New York Red Bulls just didn't react.
Yeah, I guess that sounded like I was disparaging Sporting KC. What I mean to say is that when you have an opponent that just seems like they're just not up for it, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be great. You just got to be good enough to kind of bypass what they're trying to do. And I think you could see that as the game went on, that it was just frustration for New York, that nothing they were doing was working because I don't think they were executing particularly well.
I've got Exhibit C,
What's that?
Which I think is sort of we can just call this case right now. Do you remember when Tyler Adams has to sprint and just get a hand? I can't remember who the breakaway striker was. Just has to get a hand on someone. Was it Gerso maybe? And he ends up shooting
I think it was.
just wide or saved.
Yep.
And the reason they end up in that situation is New York Red Bulls, they're 1-0 down. Okay, fine. They have a corner kick. They literally send everybody forward.
Free kick. But it's right by where...
Oh, no, Tyler Adams was fouled by Benny Feilhaber, right? It's actually a really good bit of play from Tyler Adams, really like a bit of explosiveness down the line. Makes me think he could play right back and do a bit of overlapping for the US national team. They put everybody in the box. So then when KC are able to break, I think it is Latif Blessing just hits a long ball sort of diagonal over the top. Jesse's free because New York haven't thought to keep anybody back.
Well, two things. So Adams is probably about 25 yards from goal, so he's not technically in the box. But I see your point that they've got everybody
he's
forward.
well in the opposition half.
But they've got everybody forward because Sporting KC have their entire team back to defend, right? So because they've got the wall there, because it is a free kick, they've got everybody back. I say that
so you're saying it's not such a problem because it's okay to have everybody forward if everybody else is back.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of times with the corner kick, you keep like one or two attackers forward, and so I just don't want it to come across as though like Sporting KC just had a guy standing at midfield, like I guess I'm open.
So is it more about the break?
It's basically Jerso kind of drifts forward because I think as soon as that ball comes in, it's kind of cleared, but it's cleared straight up in the air. It looks like it's going to go out for either a corner kick or a goal kick, but it stays in play. Then there's a battle. Then Blessing wins it and just hoofs it long.
Didn't try a silly header. Like he tries to just head it back into the box, and then it bounces back out.
Yeah, and kind of there's chaos in there. And I think in that process, Jerso has slipped forward. But I think Tyler Adams, to his credit, has come over to try to help Sasha Kljestan because I think he thinks Kljestan's going to settle this. He's going to need a support option. And then when the ball is suddenly lost, he's now out of position. But I wouldn't say that's necessarily his fault.
Yeah.
But what is his, not necessarily fault, but to his credit, there it is that he closes, I'd say 20 yards conservatively, probably closer to 30 yards, and does enough to put Jerso off that he kind of gets a hand in there and just kind of lets him hear those footsteps.
By the way, I'm not confident that it's Jerso.
It's Jerso. I check my notes. So it's and enough.
Bless your notes. I'm really happy you have them.
Enough that he shoots wide, and I think that again is good dedication, and again why I say that Tyler Adams was the best player for New York on the evening.
Very easily.
Yeah,
right? I would say the one caveat to that is again we talked about his role. Like he was the one that was encouraged to show his energy and run around.
Yeah.
So it's almost like. There's an element where you say like I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying like he's the only one that cared, and I really feel like maybe just the task he was given was to sort of move a lot and cover a lot of ground, and that can be interpreted as having more passion or caring more. And I'm not sure that that's accurate.
Well, I think anytime that
it's not accurate.
I mean, I know that we do this sometimes, but I think anytime you're trying to interpret a player's emotions and saying like, oh, he ran a lot, therefore he's the only one who cared. Like, no, I mean, these guys are professional athletes. They would like to win.
Yeah.
They all care. But I will say that like you're right that he was the one who probably was tasked with doing that running. But by the same token, if you're tasked with making smart passes that transition from defense to attack,
right?
I didn't see a lot of that. If your task is like staying home and tracking runners, I didn't see a lot of that. I didn't see a lot of like good overlapping runs or hard defensive work.
It's hard to overlap when all your players are central players.
Yeah, true. But I just mean that like it's not as though anybody else was like executing their game plan perfectly and it just kind of wasn't coming off. It felt like everybody was just kind of struggling.
Okay, we won't dwell on this too much, but let's think about Sporting KC's second goal, which is really where this game is sort of done and dusted in many ways, right? It is. Sal Zizzo is on the field. I want to say at most a minute. He subs in for New York Red Bulls.
Yep.
He's not up to speed, is he? He is absolutely not up to speed. He essentially plays, is it Saloy? I think that's how you pronounce it, the Hungarian guy who came on for Blessing. He essentially keeps him on side as he runs on to that through ball from Feilhaber.
And in this situation, he doesn't just keep him on side, because I think when that ball is played, Saloy might have been kept on by a couple different players.
Yeah.
The difference here is that Sal Zizzo, it almost feels like somebody turned on like the FIFA artificial intelligence, and his only job was like, I gotta get back into shape. Like he
on the easy setting.
Yeah, Sal Zizzo runs past Saloy and like looks at him and is like, oh, hey, you're open, and then can like really does like a 360 spin and continues to run, and then realizes like, oh no, he's in behind me now. That wasn't good. Like it was just ludicrous what he's doing.
I told you I had an analogy for this, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember Back to the Future? The very first Back to the Future, when Marty McFly first realizes that he's in 1955, and he's in where the housing estate would have been, or what do you call it? Like the subdivision would have been.
Yeah, not a housing estate.
And he just kind of like spins around in a circle, like really confused, trying to take it all in, and just completely his mind is blown. That's what Sal Zizzo looked like in this moment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it, because it really did feel like he was like ran past him, was like, oh, I'm going to mark you in a second, but first I got to go touch home base or something.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like he was like tagging up in baseball. Like, there's a pop fly in the air. I got to make sure I'm on the base, then I can come mark you. Oh, you've already scored. Shucks.
All right. Big question.
Yeah.
Did Saloy mean that touch
No.
as a goal? It wasn't a great touch, was it?
No, it wasn't. I mean, it didn't really matter, because I was so focused on that touch and deciding whether or not he meant to, that you were like laughing hysterically. And I was like, what? He's like, what is Mir doing? And then you go back and watch, and New York's goalkeeper, I think, basically comes out and thinks he's going to be able to get to the ball in time, then realizes that he's not going to be able to catch it or not even get to the ball first. So then he tries to kick it clear, and in that process just completely whiffs.
He misses by a distance.
But I think it's definitely not an intentional, like he gets a touch to it, obviously, but I think he's going for like the lift flick over the goalkeeper and instead it's just a touch around that then leads to a goal.
Samira, I'm not sure how far he misses that ball by, but he's not going to be happy to see that again.
No. I don't think many New York players are going to be pumped to see this one again. But I think so. I mean, to his credit, at least he's making that run through. At least he keeps himself on side, and at least it ends up in the back of the net. That's all you can ask for.
All right, so a few closing thoughts. Once again, congratulations to Sporting KC. Yep. Second, Red Bulls fans, if you've been watching this team the last few months, has this 3-3-1-3 thing been working? Because I was really concerned by what I saw today. Or maybe 3-4-3, you could kind of call it that, right? Maybe it's meant to be kind of a diamond.
3-4-3 with a diamond. But I think...
It's essentially a team with no width, which just seems like a terrible idea to me.
Absolutely. And I was about to say, it's kind of like a 3-4-3 diamond. But no, you're absolutely right, because I think Tyler Adams is given that license. So I think that one is a distinction.
We saw him defensive midfieldering, a bit of wide midfieldering, and some attacking midfieldering. Yeah. And he was the best at all positions. Yes. I was not impressed with Felipe, by the way, is the subtext of that.
So with that said, since we've sung... criticized New York Red Bulls to a decent extent.
Yeah.
Sung Sporting KC's praises a little bit. Let's bring down the Sporting KC fans, shall we?
Oh, really? We have to do that? Okay.
I think we do, because let's talk Graham Zusi.
Okay, so the narrative after this game could very well be Zusi with a great cross for Blessing's goal, and it really was a great cross. Mm-hmm. It was under no pressure.
Right.
He should have been able to, I want to say easily, hit that cross. I don't take anything away from the cross, because that was a good moment.
Yeah.
He did the perfect thing in that moment, right? Then he wasn't put under much pressure at right back for the rest of the game. Not enough to convince me that suddenly I feel more comfortable with him as the second choice right back to DeAndre Yedlin. In the final few minutes, when New York bring on Veron, when they finally bring on someone who can play a bit wide and can run at people, suddenly Graham Zusi is in trouble for at least 10 minutes.
Yeah, and I would say that you could make the argument that anytime you bring on a fresh-legged attacker whose only job is to run at the defense and try to make something happen, if you've been playing for 90 minutes with water breaks because it was an uncomfortable setting, then you understand maybe why he would be a little bit heavy-legged. But I think in that situation, again, a more experienced defender adjusts their game and isn't trying to mark so tightly.
And doesn't get beaten to the end line by Veron.
Exactly.
Which is one of the first things that happens when Veron comes in, I think.
Yeah, and so it did seem like Zusi was doing a decent job, at least in the first half, early in the second half, of sort of keeping his position, keeping his shape, not getting sucked in, not getting pulled out.
And choosing when to go and sort of overlap and give New York all that trouble by being the extra right winger and delivering crosses. I'm thinking now this is Zusi's strength, is he kind of does know when to join the attack. He can deliver a cross, but the danger is always in his defensive positioning and his one-on-one defending, which is key to playing right back.
Yeah, well, and also the fact that, as you've said on a number of occasions, New York trying to play through the middle, basically. They've got numbers in the middle, so then if you're getting maybe one player coming out wide and coming at you, that's a more manageable situation than having to track one player staying out wide and then an overlapping fullback and then a forward drifting across, and you're trying to navigate a couple different options.
Yeah.
It becomes more tricky, and I don't think he had to deal with that. So I'm not trying to criticize him for defensive performance that he didn't need to put in, if that makes any sense, but still there were those moments that I didn't see him lock it down defensively in the way that I would have preferred.
Yeah, but still a good cross.
I would say, actually, that is worth noting, because when we were first very critical of Graham Zusi, it was all the way back at the beginning of this season when we saw him in person cross the ball from that right-hand side, and he kept not looking up. He kept just dribbling to the end line, head down, and then crossing in and hoping somebody was there.
So it's like he had the muscle memory and the technique and the skill to always hit a certain spot.
Yep.
But he didn't necessarily know who was there or what was going on.
Or if anyone was there.
He could maybe think Dom Dwyer's going to be there because they may have designed it or planned it, but he's not looking when he does it. And a lot of those crosses went nowhere.
And before we hear anything, we're referring to the Sporting KC game we saw at the beginning of the season when Dom Dwyer was still there. But anyway, and so then to go back and watch that cross, he definitely picks his head up, he definitely picks his spot, puts it down, takes a touch, picks his head back up, makes sure that's still there, then plays that ball in.
But because Kamal Lawrence gives him comfortably 10 yards.
I'm just saying, at least
did the referee make Kamal Lawrence stay 10 yards away? Did Zusi ask for 10?
I think the preceding 5 tournament games is what really wore him out. But I just say, at least we saw him kind of improving in that crossing ability from when we first saw him this season.
Okay.
I mean, and in intervening games, it's not just that one game, but it was good to see him pick that spot, get that cross in, and get a deserved assist.
All right, lots more MLS to come on the Total Soccer Show. You will have noticed the league is now. They being the teams, are a regular part of our thumbs up, thumbs down weekend review.
Yes, sir.
We'll have more for you early next week
Sounds
on
good.
Monday. Before we move on to talk some Americans in the Bundesliga, today's show, Taylor, is sponsored by SeatGeek. SeatGeek are back. It's SeatGeek's third stint on the Total Soccer Show.
Welcome back, old friends.
Yeah.
Welcome back, old friends.
Come on in.
Buying tickets to sports and concerts can be complicated, but there is a better, simpler way to buy with SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to live events.
And I know that we've been looking through the SeatGeek app to see which MLS games you can go to, because it's famously SeatGeek sponsor certain MLS teams. They have partnerships. What did you find, Taylor, looking through the SeatGeek app?
I mentioned that we went to the season opener at RFK Stadium. Obviously, the season is coming to a close for some teams, including DC United. No playoffs for them.
I think it's already over.
Also, RFK is coming to a close as well. This is the final RFK season. So I did want to try to catch one more home game. I think I have 2 remaining. And you've got San Jose visiting DC United this weekend. I won't be making that since we'll be doing the Kickers game. If you want to take that one in, you can do it for about $15 using the SeatGeek app. Then October 22nd is
Papooses all around.
Yeah, they will have those at the new stadium. You saw that one too? I assume that wasn't just totally random. October 22nd, final game. New York Red Bulls coming to DC. RFK, final game.
No way.
$40. Yep.
The final game at RFK is against New York Red Bulls. Was that planned, do you think?
Or at least those are the upcoming 5 games that I see. But I'm assuming that is the end of the season.
Is it late October?
Yep.
That's the end of the season for
there
DC.
It is.
This year. That must have been scheduled deliberately, right? To give the biggest rival come into play on the last day, the last ever game at RFK.
Yeah. I think, you wouldn't just schedule somebody like a bit more random. You'd probably go with a rival. And they have. So there we go.
The good news is, if you would like to go to either of those games or any other MLS games or any other concerts or anything that you find on the SeatGeek app, you can get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Here's what you do. You download the SeatGeek app via the App Store or Google Play, whichever type of phone you are using. Go to the Settings tab, enter the promo code TSS. Enter TSS. It's promo code TSS for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Welcome back, SeatGeek.
Welcome back, SeatGeek, and thank you for sponsoring today's show.
Just like old times.
Just like old times indeed, buddy.
Speaking of the opposite of old times, new times.
New times.
Weston McKennie starting for Schalke against Bayern in the Bundesliga.
In the Bundesliga.
His first ever Bundesliga start, as I understand it. This kid is 19 years old, American, playing central midfield against Bayern Munich. How did he do, Taylor?
How did he do or how did they do?
Let's start with how did he do?
He did very well, I would say.
He did, right? I agree.
I'm inclined to say he was the best midfielder for his team on the day.
Yep, and which
is a low bar, again, I'm saying.
Yeah, so his teammates at the time were, Nabil Bentaleb, Spurs fans may be familiar with him, and Leon Goretzka, who lit up the Confederations Cup this summer. The big thing I noticed was, maybe we'll talk about the defensive side in a second, but so they lost 3-0, right?
They did.
Every time Schalke tried to possess the ball, Goretzka would do something way too fancy. Maybe, I was making jokes, I don't know the story on this, but maybe Goretzka's trying to impress Bayern and move there in the future. And Nabil Bentaleb made some really poor passing decisions, gave the ball away far too much, including was it the second goal? He tried to chest pass it. He tried to use the power of his chest to pass the ball. Bayern strip him of the ball. About 10 seconds later, James Rodriguez has it in the back of the net.
And it's even more insulting because he tries to do the chest pass and it doesn't work, but it is picked up by a Bayern player and it's kind of like lifted into the chest of Robert Lewandowski, who does actually pull off a chest pass.
Does he? I didn't spot that.
So if you were going to go MLS assist in the Bundesliga,
how you do it, buddy.
Yeah, he actually gets the MLS assist with a chest pass.
Oh.
Yeah.
So those are the things that that Goretzka and Bentaleb did wrong. What did Weston McKennie do right in his 57 minutes?
He kissed it, man. He kept it simple, stupid. Like, that's what it takes, man. I mean, he really, or keep it simple, sweetheart, if you want to be nicer. Yeah. I don't know. But that is what I felt like made him stand out from the rest of the Schalke midfield. And really the team as a whole, because we talked about this in the last show, just watching little bits and pieces previously. It seemed like maybe he was a little bit nervous, but you watched it again, the entire team was nervous. There were so many misplaced passes and bad giveaways and sort of hesitant touches and then optimistic balls over the top that were never going to come off. It felt like everybody were sort of like, oh boy, Bayern is here, in a way that you speculated. And I was like, that cannot be. Like, they're used to playing Bayern Munich. But the more you watch this game, the more it was like, oh, no, they're definitely intimidated.
Because once a year, Bayern comes to visit, and you know it's the best team in the Bundesliga, has been for a long time. Even when they're not the best team, they're the biggest team in the Bundesliga. This is the big test when Bayern come to your house. What do you serve them? Do you open a can of whoopass, or do you sort of just fall at their feet?
Or do you just like open all of your pantries and refrigerator and like, whatever you guys want, just have at it. and like, I'm going to try to keep some of the food for me and my teammates, and I'm going to throw it to my team. Oh, you intercepted it? Okay, fine.
I feel like Schalke tried to be sort of confident hosts, but ended up like spilling a lot of drinks.
Yeah, well, see, and that I think is the difference.
On themselves.
Yeah, and that's the difference between what Weston McKennie brought to the table and what a lot of his teammates did, which is that, like, you would see Bentaleb, for example, like, make a decent play and kind of win the ball back, but then have a pass to no one. and then it would be intercepted by a Bayern player. And Weston McKennie on multiple occasions would do that
McKennie?
sort of step across, block the player off, and win that ball back. And it was just sort of simple defensive work that wasn't overly elaborate. It wasn't trying to like shepherd somebody into somebody else or like take them this way. It was just sort of like, no, I'm going to put them under pressure. I'm going to step across if I can, and I might have to foul if I have to, but so be it.
So I feel like with Weston McKennie, we are living through the same thing we did with the early days of Christian Pulisic, which is where we figure out
Simplicity reigns,
what
baby.
his strengths are. And I think the thing with McKennie is, well, I don't know, actually. His passing is simple, but it's usually very well measured because sometimes it kind of breaks lines a little bit. I remember a couple of breaks that Schalke had that were because McKennie played a ball that looked kind of simple, but actually played someone into space and got them out of trouble, right?
Simple doesn't mean easy, though. It means you're playing like a simple ball in the sense that you're not doing like an outside of the foot bender through 4 defenders that might come off. Like, and I don't mean to go back to this and harp more on New York Red Bulls fans, but wasn't it the point that Matt Doyle made about Sasha Kljestan that like, yes, he has some very beautiful like...
He has lots of assists because he tries lots of sort of through balls.
Right, and you watch... and
sometimes into defenders.
And we saw that game where a lot of them were cut out or intercepted or went too long.
He tried to find Bradley Wright-Phillips at US Open Cup final. He tried to play it through 3 defenders to get to him, and it hit the first defender.
And that's what I mean is like you don't see Weston McKennie doing that, but you see him, that guy's open, 2 defenders, I can split those 2. It can be a good pass. Like it can be that simple, take a touch, play the ball, and sometimes that can just be just as effective.
Yeah, even when I saw a lot of him just basically playing it backwards, which was fine. Schalke would hold on to the ball at least for an extra few seconds until it got to Bentaleb or Goretzka. The other thing I saw McKennie do a lot of was win the ball, right? Doing some good old-fashioned defensive midfield job. Not with big, chunky, I'm going to snap you in half tackles, but more like... I'm smart. I know when balls pop loose. I know when someone's going to overplay. I know when my teammate is going to apply pressure and I can step in and take it. For a 19-year-old especially, but for any player, I think I saw McKennie do a lot of that, and that might be the thing that impressed me the most.
Yeah, and really that's why like I was surprised to see him leave the field because it seemed to me like he was the one who was doing the best job and really the only job of kind of locking down the middle to the extent that it could. And I really don't think that that's even an American bias. I just feel like if you watch this as a neutral,
we should check ourselves, right? I thought about this. Like, am I saying that McKennie's better than Bentaleb and Goretzka in this game because I want him to be? But rewatching it, I'm pretty confident that we're right.
I mean, Goretzka, I would say, I don't know if that's a toss-up because I don't think he necessarily has as much defensive responsibility as McKennie. But Bentaleb, I mean, gave the ball away a lot, didn't really do a good job of staying home, didn't really do a good job of winning the ball back.
If not for Naldo, he would be the villain of this game.
Yeah,
Naldo gave the early penalty away with a sliding handball.
Absolutely. And that's why, I mean, for him to sub off in the 57th minute, it could have been worse. I think, I forget who it was, came off at halftime, so there could be that. But I was surprised, and I guess the idea was that it was for an attacking change to bring in some life. But I feel like in that situation...
Bola, right?
Yeah. I feel like in that situation, you keep your better defensive player on, you take off the one who's underperforming and put on an attacker.
Could it also be that he's 19? I've heard Tedesco talk about, he's young, we need to sort of manage his minutes, don't overexpose him. So maybe it's not like... he's maybe doing the best, but that really isn't the most important thing right now.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, they're 2-0 down, I think, maybe 3-0 down. So maybe it is also just like, this game is out of reach, we're not going to pull this one back. Let's get him off, give him a little bit of rest, let's not have it be too bad.
It just occurred to me as well, even if Goretzka's having a bad game, he's still their star player, right? You're still not taking him off. That's kind of like the US taking Christian Pulisic off just because he's not doing very well, right?
Yeah.
And not like the recent qualifiers not very well, but like more of a medium not very well.
So should we talk about how excited we are for the future then? Because we haven't even talked about the other guy who's playing in the Bundesliga, but we'll get to him in a minute.
We'll definitely get to Pulisic in not too long, but we've talked about Tyler Adams today, and we've talked about Weston McKennie, and I can't help but imagining a central midfield in the very near future that has Adams and McKennie in it. Let's do a thought experiment. What would that look like? Let's add Michael Bradley to it.
I mean, that's the thing. I was going to say, when you say near future, let's...
Okay, imagine... Do you remember we watched the U20s play under Tab Ramos? And he essentially had a number 6 and 2 number 8s as opposed to any big playmaker, right? Can you imagine Michael Bradley as the number 6 and then the 2 ahead of him in a 3-man midfield are Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie?
It's like, no, but I want to. It just seems premature. But,
okay, well, let's do the thought experiment though. What would that look like?
Effective, I think, because you'd have Michael Bradley kind of like doing the role that I think he wants to be doing right now.
The dad?
Yeah, exactly. And then he's got the 2 youngsters running all over the place. Maybe you got Danny Williams in there when he's fully fit and ready to go, and suddenly you've got a very tenacious midfield with decent substitutions coming in.
But I see energy from Adams. I'd see a lot of ball winning. I see really clever use of the ball from Tyler Adams and a few tricks in tight spaces. You know what I mean? I saw Adams get out of some tight spaces for New York. I see kind of the same for Weston McKennie. Maybe not as aggressive, but like he's still got the same like really sure touch on the ball and the ability to play a simple pass like you talked about. I'm already thinking that would be an effective midfield. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say at the senior level right now. I'm not predicting it will happen. I'm saying it would be. I'd be happy if it happened.
I think we may have already said this,
Really?
like a month ago when we first saw him play. We were like, he's ready to go right now. He's good enough. He can do this. So I mean, yeah, I'm definitely not going to disagree with you. I'll say that a key, like a determinant, is going to be if he continues to get minutes, because if he has that sort of Pulisic breakout where suddenly he is in or around the starting 11 every single game, he's going to get that confidence and that familiarity, so that then if he does get that call up to the national team, it's not. Like, I don't think we've ever seen Pulisic be overawed by playing with the U.S. national team.
I've seen him underawed in Cuba.
Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like Weston McKennie could have that same thing where it's like we already saw him at halftime of this game having some words and telling people like, no, you got to step, you got to do this.
That is what we saw, right?
And
we saw him telling teammates what to do.
It's the assertiveness of experience. And I feel like the more match experience he gets, the more senior minutes he gets, the more he's going to be comfortable doing that. Then the idea of him starting in the midfield for the United States becomes a much more realistic possibility in my mind.
Would you agree you saw the same from Tyler Adams? Like a level of responsibility for an 18-year-old playing with grown men where he sometimes seemed like the adult in the room? At least in terms of his decisions with the ball.
I'll say this. He felt like the adult in the room because a lot of times, I don't like that I took your pronunciation there. He felt like the adult in the room. That happens a lot, and then I get in trouble for mispronouncing
If
things.
I can get you saying McKennie.
That ain't gonna happen. But it does feel like if you have like one adult monitoring like 4 6-year-olds, that adult is just constantly like, no, put that down. Oh, no, okay, don't do that. Oh, don't let that go out the window. Okay, don't do that. And it did feel like Tyler Adams in that game, like every time somebody like made a key defensive like intervention or like had a big block or had a good tackle, it was like, oh, no, yeah, that was Tyler Adams. Yep. Oh, yeah, there's Tyler Adams again. Oh, he was just playing defense and now suddenly he's also shooting on goal. Okay, well done, Tyler Adams. He was the adult in the room full of 6-year-olds.
And if he wasn't the adult, he was the Wonder Boy? Or is that title reserved for another player?
That title is reserved for Christian Pulisic.
It is now, thanks to Alexi Lalas. Right?
Absolutely.
But Pulisic started for Borussia Dortmund in their 3-0 question mark win over Hamburg. Bobby Wood's Hamburg. Bobby Wood played, right?
I believe he did.
He is not injured, which is a big relief. Christian Pulisic scored. Let's get straight to it.
Sure.
Christian Pulisic scored. Get in there, Christian Pulisic.
He did. Daryl Grove was sad to see him not get any other assists or MLS assists. Try as you might.
Did he? Okay, so it's Aubameyang's goal.
Yeah.
This is the first goal or maybe the second goal?
Second goal, I believe.
Pulisic really does like drift inside, dribble through the middle in that way that he sort of drives at defenses sometimes, lays it out wide to Yarmolenko. Yarmolenko doesn't get the assist as he squares it for Aubameyang because he was actually shooting it.
He was definitely shooting, yeah.
Also, the Bundesliga doesn't give MLS assists.
Also that.
But we watched it, and I'm giving it to him.
I mean, I think it's fair in, like, principle, I guess, because, I mean, it is him driving into that defense, pulling defenders in, playing it out wide, and creating that opportunity. And then, obviously, the third goal, which he actually scores, he probably deserves some credit there, too. But it's a similar thing that we've come to expect from him, where it's being in the right position, but it's also tight control. It's smart dribbling to kind of, like, control the ball quickly, but he has to kind of reach behind him at the same time. So he kind of swivels the hips, opens them up, and then brings the ball with him across and then into his stride, then takes a good touch, then puts it in that like driven kind of chip at the same time. Somehow that's possible, off the far post and in.
So it's good technique, really efficient technique that gets the most done really quickly. And with the biggest thing I think that we don't talk about enough with Christian Pulisic is the sudden acceleration, which I feel like takes people by surprise. I think it took the Hamburg midfield by surprise with the first goal we were talking about, with maybe the MLS assist that he's not getting credit for, and with this goal. There's a moment where he just pulls away from defenders and they're kind of like, oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's because you just don't expect it in that tight space. It is that level of like agility combined with explosiveness that is pretty rare. And I mean, it's German engineering, I would say, because it is just like that ability to just quickly
it's Hershey engineering.
Navigate. Sure, we've all heard of that. Yeah, and I think and a very impressive finish as well. It makes me very happy to see Christian Pulisic being like, oh, there's another American playing. Well, can he do this?
So we were worried about Yarmolenko coming and playing on the right for Borussia Dortmund. Daryl was worried about Yarmolenko. Pulisic played on the left in this game with Yarmolenko on the right, and it looked like it could work. It looked like this could be a shape that Dortmund go with.
Yeah, and I think it probably is, and I think we'll probably continue to see some rotation. But again, it's Christian Pulisic and Weston McKennie are your two that I feel like you've adopted as like, no, don't hurt my babies, don't hurt my precious babies.
They're my sons.
Give them all the minutes. No one may supplant them ever.
They're my overseas Messi's sons.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so good stuff from McKennie despite the 3-0 defeat. We hope to see him on the field for Schalke a bit more, maybe as much as possible between now and the game against Panama.
That would be ideal.
And Christian Pulisic, let's hope he stays in form and healthy and confident.
I have to ask you a depressing question, though. Do you think
please knock on wood.
Even if it's not about injuries or anything like that, I'm kind of curious about this. If he continues to play well, Weston McKennie, and get minutes and get starts and look good, right? But maybe not like amazing. Like he's not out there like scoring every single goal because that's not his game. I feel like there's still a chance that he doesn't get a call up because at this point Bruce Arena is just going to be like, nope, I'm going to go with what I want to do.
Arena's very in on the I trust experience, right? Yeah. I don't know if maybe the last 2 results have shaken that a little bit, and it might be sort of okay, we need some energy. This game against Panama.
I can't decide if I understand that or if that's going to bum me out. If McKennie continues to get minutes and then doesn't get that call up, but other players do who maybe haven't been performing as well or have underperformed when playing with the U.S. national team of late. I can't decide if that's an acceptable decision on his part or sort of a disappointing decision. Or maybe both.
Because we're still working with the idea that Kellyn Acosta is the young gun who's being sort of integrated into the first team. Yeah. So it's almost like if we get McKennie and we're kind of skipping over him. There's Danny Williams possibly to come back. I would guess that Bruce Arena is more confident about World Cup qualifying than you or I or most pundits or analysts. And I would guess that if he is thinking about Weston McKennie, who he's possibly never met, right? Think about that. And there's that whole Richie Williams thing that we don't know the backstory on, but basically assistant coach Richie Williams and Weston McKennie do not see eye to eye.
Evidently, yeah.
I think there's a chance that if Arena's aware of McKennie, which he definitely is, that he's thinking, we'll get through World Cup qualifying, mostly with the guys I know, and then I'll start thinking about next summer in Russia. And I've got, if we qualify in October, we've got, I'm never good at this, 6-7 months, 8 months to figure out who can make my 23. And Weston McKennie is at least on the bubble for that because of how he's performing. But I don't know him right now. Don't trust him right now because I don't know him. Can't use him against Panama and Trinidad.
All right. Well, we shall see.
Is that convincing? I'm taking you inside Bruce Arena's mind there.
No, I think again, but my question remains, is that disappointing? I think, all of that makes complete sense to me. I'm just wondering, is that still disappointing to not see a player who's getting those minutes because I want to get experience just in case?
You're in a tough spot, right? Because you think about the US national team a lot, sort of as I do, because we talk about it a lot. So we'd be excited by his inclusion, as everybody would, but we also know the logical reasons why it's not very likely. Yep. So we're going to have to sort of live in that in-between space, I think.
I appreciate your continuing to dance around the question.
I'm saying we can't answer that question because, you know what, Taylor? A wise man once told me, things can be 2 things.
There we go. That man was Andy Dwyer, by the way. Oh, no, that man was Jake Peralta from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Stuff can be 2 things, right? Yeah. You told me things can be 2 things.
Oh, you're right. That was me. All right, I'll take credit for it. I will not take credit for the Scouting Network, Daryl Grove.
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone else is doing all the work there.
We have a lot of scouting reports
to
read you today. I'm very excited, including one, I don't know where it is on the list, but there's one about a very exciting move for a young American, which I'm ready to discuss. I believe
you will be reading in just a second because I'm going to go first, and I'm going to say Sean Scott scouting Alain Saint-Maximin, the 20-year-old French winger for OGC Nice. Saint-Maximin scored in Nice's opening game of the Europa League en route to a 5-1 victory over Zulte Waregem. Sure. He has looked plenty dangerous as an attacking option for Nice and has made the same 25-player shortlist as Dembele, Mbappe, Rashford, and Pulisic for the 2017 Golden Boy Award.
Oh, that's a typo. It should be Wonder Boy Award.
Okay. But Sean Scott asks, he basically said, I'm not sure how prestigious this award is, but allow me to mention Pulisic and Alain Saint-Maximin, so I am scouting in the same report, so that rocks.
I think the Golden Boy Award is quite well respected.
I believe it is.
You don't turn it down, put it that way.
It will be more respected if Christian Pulisic wins it.
Yes.
Which he won't, but still. It's definitely going to be Kylian Mbappe.
Yeah,
that's how it's going to work.
Michael Hartman is scouting Josh Sargent. This is the move I was excited about. 17-year-old American for ... It's now official, Michael says. Josh will join Werder Bremen on his 18th birthday. He'll continue prep with the U17s as they prepare for the World Cup. But in February 2018, that's when Sargent turns 18 and is allowed to move overseas, he'll be signing his first pro contract.
Yep.
Did you see the quote from the Bremen coach?
No.
They said basically he'll join in February. He'll spend some time getting to know the city,
yeah.
training or playing with the U23s, I think he said, which is interesting because he could play U19s. And then we'll get him involved with the first team properly next season.
There we are.
So there is a career pathway being laid out.
I'm going to
for
assume
Josh
that's
Sargent.
part of the reason why he's agreed to go there.
Yeah, it seems like right. Oh, final little update on this. I know this just because we saw this before recording. They've named the U17 World Cup roster. No surprise, Josh Sargent is on there.
Yeah, I can't say that's a big surprise at all. Up next, Josh Dollar scouting Blake Bodley, 19-year-old American midfielder for the University of Washington. After a lackluster summer with the Portland Timbers USL team,
T2.
There you go. Blake has
Judgment
started
Day.
his career for the Washington Huskies in fine form. He's a consistent starter and has now gotten his first college assist against Gonzaga, his first goal against Drexel, and his second goal against Santa Clara. Both goals were beautifully hit into the top left corner of the goal. UW now has 1 week to go before the start of conference play and are currently 5-2, second best in the Pac-12.
Do you call them UW or is that their official name?
That is their official name,
right.
and I know that because, number one, I know that, but number two, Josh also emailed him with the pronunciation.
I know that because number one, I know that.
Yeah.
Vu Tran is scouting Mahmoud Dahoud, the 21-year-old German midfielder for Borussia Dortmund. Vu says, with Boss continuing to rotate his central midfielders, Dahoud came off the bench in the 66th minute in Dortmund's 3-0 win over Hamburg. I know this game. He received a pass with a clever first touch to give himself some space, drew in 4 defenders as he dribbled towards goal, and then passed it to some guy I've never heard of who buried it far post past the keeper. This is Dahoud's second assist in 2 games. I don't think we mentioned it when we talked about the Pulisic goal. It was Dahoud that drew people in and then sort of dropped it off to Christian Pulisic.
And then a bit of a disclaimer here. I'm going to read the next 2, and then Daryl, you're not allowed to read ahead because I really want you to read the long paragraph one that I was scheduled to read, but don't read ahead.
Okay.
Don't read ahead. Richie Garcia scouting Emerson Hyman.
No, I never ever do.
Yeah, that's true. 21-year-old American midfielder for AFC Bournemouth. Emerson finally made the matchday squad, this time for Bournemouth EFL Cup match against Brighton, and he got his first senior minutes of the season as well. Bournemouth eventually defeated Brighton 1-0 in extra time, and Hyman subbed on in the 117th minute to see out the victory. So an important a rock in there to lock down the defense. Whatever. Okay. Minutes are minutes, baby. Minutes.
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
Let's get Emerson Hyman in that Bournemouth team.
Let's keep going with the baby steps theme. Dylan Veach scouting Kai Havertz, 18-year-old German attacking midfielder for Bayer Leverkusen. Kai got his first Bundesliga start in Leverkusen's 2-1 loss to Hertha Berlin. He was listed as a forward, but Dylan says he did a lot of support work, dropping deep to help find space. Dylan adds that he would have liked to see more creativity and chances provided from Kai, but a start is a start.
Okay. Jen Ahern is scouting Jairo Riedewald, 21-year-old Dutch defender or possible midfielder for Crystal Palace. So far, so normal. I'm not sure. I'm a little...
You'll understand.
I'm a little nervous here.
You'll understand.
Okay, Jen says...
It's nothing bad. It's just one that I know that you will be like... if I read it, you would be making the noises. I'd rather you read it and then also make the noises. So
Okay. Here we go. Jen says, Riedewald essentially followed his former Ajax coach Frank de Boer to Crystal Palace, so de Boer's abrupt firing raised obvious concerns about whether Riedewald, who'd already missed a few games due to injury this season, could still find a place in the team under new manager Roy Hodgson. As if he needed even more pressure, Sky Sports recently published an article posting that his success or failure would, in true Dutch fashion, be a reflection on the Cruyff versus Van Gaal philosophical feud, with Riedewald having grown up as a self-described, quote, guinea pig, unquote, in Cruyff's youth system at Ajax. The jury is, of course, still out on that, but Riedewald did play in Palace's League Cup win versus Huddersfield this week, and his performance in central midfield was described by The Guardian as, quote, far more assured, unquote, and his distribution, quote, crisp and at times even clever, unquote.
I just like the idea of one 21-year-old being like, yep, this is going to finally decide the age-old dispute between Van Gaal and Cruyff.
It's kind of interesting that Sky Sports picked up on that, right?
I'm sure it was like Sky Sports Netherlands. It was like a Dutch writer for Sky Sports. Up next, Sean Dickey scouting Weston McKennie. We've talked about him a little bit. 19-year-old American central midfielder for Schalke. Sean emailed in to let us know that McKennie's first Bundesliga start, noting that McKennie looked like he belonged on the pitch. We agree. After the match, it seemed like he was caught in two minds. He was excited to have started, but disappointed that his team looked so poor. I think both of those things are accurate statements.
Thank you, Sean, for doing the follow-up work and seeing what Weston did afterwards, because we literally pressed stop at minute 57.
We sure did.
Brandon Brown is scouting Nikola Vlasic, the 19-year-old Croatian midfielder for Everton. Vlasic was in the starting lineup for Everton's 3-0 victory over Sunderland in the EFL/League/Carling/Mickey Mouse/Carabao Cup. He linked up the attack, could have had at least 3 MLS assists, and his quick decision-making and comfort on the ball were on full display. Go on, Nicola.
I like at least 3 MLS assists, as though it didn't finish 3-0. Shreyas Romani scouting Dan Axel Zagadou, 18-year-old French defender for Borussia Dortmund. Not surprisingly, lots of youngsters in there.
I literally assigned this maybe 4 hours ago, so Shreyas is on this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Zagadou was subbed off in the 84th minute of Dortmund's 3-0 win over Hamburg on Wednesday. He has started 4 out of Dortmund's 5 league matches so far, all at left back, and Dortmund have yet to allow a league goal this season. He's looked solid, but a little inexperienced defensively, and decent going forward with the injury to Marcel Schmelzer. He looks to be Dortmund's first-choice left back for the time being, with some competition from Jeremy Toljan.
So, yeah, the big thing is that Zagadou's big, right? Zagadou's definitely a centre-back.
Yeah.
This is
very, very big.
Like a Joe Gomez situation where he's definitely a centre-back, but he is definitely playing left-back for Borussia Dortmund.
Yes,
it's
and
an odd situation.
Shreyas definitely emailed in that height, and I think I removed it when tightening this one up. So,
okay,
yes, I apologize.
Space. Yeah. Okay.
That was the one thing. It was the height that was too much.
Up next, Zachary Lindquist is scouting Jackson Yueill, the 20-year-old American midfielder for San Jose. Yueill has quietly appeared in 11 MLS games, starting 8, after beginning the season with Reno 1868. That's the affiliate. He's tallied only 1 assist. I know, I saw it. But has been lauded for his ability. I saw it after Zachary scouted it. Lauded for his ability to pick out a dangerous ball from deep in midfield. Jackson continues to be a must-start and has become the tempo guy for a Quakes team that looks to break through him.
There we are. William Reed scouting Harry Winks, 21-year-old English midfielder for Tottenham. Winks came off the bench.
Played in the EFL Cup.
He did. Isn't it shocker? Came off the bench against Everton and then went the full 90 in Spurs' 1-0 win against Barnsley in the Carabao Cup. He appears to be back to 100% fitness after an ankle injury that has plagued him since last April.
Oh, I didn't know he played against Everton. Okay.
Not just the Carabao Cup anymore, jerk.
Right. Mike Spinelli is scouting George Bello, the 15-year-old American left-back for Atlanta United, and the American Paolo Maldini. Bello was left off of the final 21-man US roster for the U17 World Cup. This was not entirely unexpected, as Bello is only 15 years old, but there is still a very bright future ahead for him, a.k.a. the heir to Greg Garza's left-back throne at Atlanta United. I've got loftier goals for him.
Yeah?
I'd call him the new Paolo Maldini. Respect to Greg Garza, but...
Yeah. Weirdly, he also got minutes in the Carabao Cup, George Bello.
You didn't? I did as well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm getting lazy in my old age.
Well, I think we should say thank you to Sean, Michael, Josh, Vu, Richie, Dylan, Jen, Sean, Brandon, I dropped the paper, Shreyas, Zachary, William, and Mike.
You know you're competing against no one, right?
Against myself.
Oh my God.
Have you ever heard of a personal best?
I mean, was that it?
No, that was not it. It's in previous weeks.
The thing, like, I wish listeners could see how serious, like, you just straight, like, 10 stuff, got already, like, I gotta be ready. Like, you are focused on reading those names.
I'm in it to win it. Thank you to
win what?
Thank you to everybody who sent in their scouting reports. If you'd like to join the TSS Scouting Network, I did some assignments today. I'll be doing more over the weekend. Go to totalsoccershow.com/join. Totalsoccershow.com/join. You can join the Scouting Network at any level, $5, $10, $15 and up, to support the Total Soccer Show. Help us keep going. If you join at $10 a month or more, we guarantee to answer how many questions a month, Taylor?
It's 12.
One question a month, at least one question a month on TSS if you send in your questions via totalsoccershow.com/questions.
But if you subscribe at the $1,200 a month level, we'll answer 12 questions.
I mean, we'll retire.
That's also true.
You'll probably end the show.
Good point.
Also, we've launched some new t-shirts.
Yep.
If you go to totalsoccershow.com/merch, it's the Total Soccer Show logo in black, so you got it on some light coloured shirts. If you want a white t-shirt, I say wear white after Labor Day if it has a TSS logo on it. That's totalsoccershow.com/merch.
Fashion maven Daryl Grove. Says do what you want.
Getting it all wrong. All right, so Taylor, you are out for the Friday show.
Yep.
But I will be talking to Nipun Chopra about the NASL versus US Soccer antitrust lawsuit. I'm hoping, well, I know that he knows a lot about it. He spent a lot of time covering all this. So we'll be getting deep into what's going on with the North American Soccer League. I like to give them the full name.
That's good
sometimes.
of you. That's good of you.
All right, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.